You're listening to Around Comics. 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 You're listening to Around Comics.
From my basement where nothing wants to fucking go right and everything is wrong today, you're listening and watching another episode of Around Comics. What's happening, fellas? It is episode number 362. Greenbacks and Red Hands is the title.
I thought it was green red. I thought it was green red backs hands.
Green red back hands. Yes. Well, it could be. However you want to read it.
All right. Yeah.
Green red back hands, green back red hands, green hands red backs.
I just keep singing. It was Agatha all along. It was Agatha.
It was. This is the wrong show for that.
That's Sunday. Sorry.
We don't talk about that kind of stuff. What's happening, fellas? How is your? Well, I mean, I feel like I just talked to Chris Sunday, which we did.
You talk to Chris so much.
I know, all the time, constantly.
The D&D was the D&D was a bad idea.
The D&D. Too much. It's too much.
Too much Dungeons and Dragons. How did Dungeons and Dragons go?
The game itself went fine. Technology-wise, things snag.
Our dungeon master has a shit internet connection. It's kind of
he needs the Dungeon Master package from Comcast. Stable.
Yeah, something. No, it was. I don't know. Who knows? It could have been weather.
I think it was weather.
Before, so
yeah,
kind of weird, but whatever. Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah,
hopefully
it was one of those like sub 5 below 0 nights. So everyone was home streaming that night. So
this is true. They should be. Mm-hmm. Well. All right, so what do we got going on today? Anything good? I haven't really read much. I've been listening to the Stan Lee biography, True Believers, which is a complete hatchet job.
Readings for losers. Listen.
Is it a hatchet job on Stan?
Oh God, yes.
Is that Tim Callahan?
I don't even know who it is. I have no idea who wrote it. But whoever wrote it has
former guest of the show.
For sure. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, my feeling is, and obviously I'm only a couple chapters in, but it's already pretty horrible. And whatever, like I don't know how much of it is true or accurate about Stan, but my feeling of it, listening to it, is that the writer went into it with a preconceived notion or a point of going, I'm going to prove that Stan has stolen his career, and then found whatever flimsy evidence to support that, going all the way back to his childhood and like bringing up things that, maybe he said about himself when he was 15 that may or may not have been true, and using that as sort of evidence that his whole career, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't know how much of it is accurate or not, but every time I listen to it, I have this image in my head of like this really mean Stan Lee, and I want to do like a face swap thing where I pretend like I bring Stan Lee back from the dead, and it's just like, I remember this time Jack came into the office and I just told him he had finished 17 issues of the Fantastic Four in 3 months and he wanted a raise, and I said, get the fuck out of here, you little bastard. And it's like
just be absolute asshole Stan Lee.
Yeah, it's like Jack Scurvy came in. We called him Jack Scurvy because in 1948 he banged this hooker in Okinawa and turned his
one of Coletta's broads.
Yeah, exactly.
It was not written by Tim Callahan. It's written by Abraham Reisman. And my confusion, I was one of the few times I'm ever on Twitter, I saw Tim Callahan tweet, I just finished the Stan Lee biography. I assumed that it was like I just finished writing it. He just finished reading it, is what it was. But yeah, Tim Callahan, he's the guy that wrote the Grant Morrison biography. We had him on the show years and years ago.
I mean, I feel maybe like it's odd, right? Because I feel like in hearing this book or like the few things I've seen about it, I feel like maybe it's not targeted at comic book fans in a weird way.
No,
I kind of feel like
I think it's
we already know what Stan Lee's, you know, a little bit. Where it's like, oh, don't be so hard on him.
I think it's absolutely targeted at this new generation of people that know Stan from the movies, and sort of, you know, it to me it seems like someone very bitter and doesn't like the fact that Stan's legacy is what it is, and is trying to sort of, you know, it's a hatchet job. It's absolutely a hatchet job.
My favorite Stan Lee movie appearance is actually in Teen Titans Go to the Movies.
Wow, I didn't know Stan was in there.
Yep, his voice is in there. Yes, it's great.
Oh, nice.
Teen Titans Go to the Movies is a great movie. Very funny. Oh, it's amazing.
I'll have to check it out.
It's very funny. Teen Titans Go legitimately makes me laugh.
Oh, it is funny.
And like my son knows all this stuff. Like the other day he was talking about arcades, and I was like, how do you know what an arcade is? And he's like, oh, in Teen Titans Go, they went back to the 80s because Robin said that was the worst decade. And
he was right.
Yeah.
My son has been watching again the Young Justice cartoon.
Young Justice is awesome.
Yeah, he really loves that. He loves anything Robin. He's a huge Robin fan, and yeah, he likes Robin more than anyone. And
yeah. Well, Young Justice is great.
Well, anyway, that book, it sounds like it's like, I think comic fans kind of have. I think most comic fans have a well-rounded idea of who Stan Lee is. You know, like they kind of get like
he took credit for some things that maybe he shouldn't have. He was opportunistic in his career.
Promoter, man. He's a promoter.
He's a Carnival Barker-esque guy, but you needed that to have the success they had. So it's sort of like, you know, whenever anyone gets too, you know, down on Stan Lee, I'm always like, come on, you gotta know what
gave a shit about comics more than him, and nobody gave a shit about comics. He was like, you know what I mean, like, but then all of a sudden it becomes, you know, this huge thing, and everybody's like, well, he's a piece of shit because he, you know, took credit. It's like nobody wanted credit. Those guys didn't even care at the time. You know, they didn't. They
were using pen names, so people didn't know that they were drawing comics.
Yeah. That's what I think. Part of it too is like, sometimes I think people get caught up in trying to, in order to give Jack Kirby credit, you have to tear down somebody else. Where it's like, no, you could just give Jack Kirby credit. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be.
Anytime there were powerful duos, there's going to be that kind of crap. There's going to be people that are like, "Oh, Paul was the most talented Beatle." No, it was John, or you know, it's Keith is nothing without Mick. That kind of stuff.
The Jack Kirby's career arc story, you know, it's sort of like the classic romantic idea of a artist, you know, of like he. You know, perhaps wronged by giant conglomerates or not treated, you know, as fairly as he could have been, you know, and I think...
Well, how many of those guys? But
obviously.
Because of so much of his creation.
Yeah, it's so ingrained and amazingly ingrained in popular culture to a degree that's sort of shocking if you think about it.
Steve Ditko walked in my office one day and said, "Get the fuck out of here before I lock you in your apartment and you never...
I'll murder you. You show up here again, I will kill you."
This is terrific. Yeah, I don't, like I said, I'm only a couple of chapters in, but it's like when you're bringing up things about someone's childhood that they may have exaggerated to try and sort of like, you know,
there's enough bullshit that Stan pulled when he was an adult. You don't have to go farm his childhood.
are also just like, I don't know. The Stan's life towards the end is sort of tragic. And you know, like it's like
well, that's part of it too. And he brings that up in the very beginning, like the prologue of the book. He talks about that, but he talks about it in a way of almost like, well, he kind of deserved it. And it's
wow.
Who the fuck are you to say that? Like, who are you to make this judgment on Stan Lee? You know what I mean? Like, go fuck yourself. There would be no Marvel Comics if not for Stan Lee. Whatever he did,
I smelled disgruntled editor.
Yeah, it's somebody that's got an axe to grind.
Yeah,
there was some article. What was it that popped up on my phone today about, and maybe it came from this book, but there's something came out recently where there was a discussion about like an article like in a New York newspaper was sort of the true catalyst between Stan and Jack like not getting along as well as they used to. Like some guy came in to profile, you know, Marvel Comics, and Stan like pretended to like plot out this comic book like in front of the reporter, and
I read that before.
And Jack Kirby was just like, yeah, okay, like obviously they'd already done it, you know, like he wasn't, you know, and then
it wasn't just
the guy in the newspaper, like I gotta find this, referred to Jack Kirby as being, you could mistake him for a worker at like a girdle factory because he misread the situation, right? And that pissed off Jack Kirby because he was just like, what the fuck, you know, like.
Well, I think one of the
girdles here, I'm making magic.
I'm at the point in the book where they're talking about when Stan first started working for Timely, and you know, Joe Simon and Jack Kirby were already this sort of dynamic duo. They had created the Captain America, and they were, you know, on contract with Timely. They were already, you know, veterans at that point, really. And here comes Stan at like 17 years old, and he's hired as basically a assistant, a gopher, you know. And but I mean, if anything in the book is true, and you know, if you take it all as sort of, you know, hearsay, but some grain of truth, it's like they treated Stan like shit. They didn't like him. I mean, even Joe Simon talked about in his book about Stan of like, you know, he wanted to be our friend, and you know, we you know, I gave him his life's dream when I let him write this little piece, and it's like, yeah, you probably were an asshole to him, and then when he got to the point where he was in control, he was in charge. Fuck you! You think he just forgot about that?
He was the boss's son.
Yeah,
son-in-law.
Yeah. He was the boss's son-in-law, and he was also this, you know, kid that didn't have anything to do with comics really, and you know, and I think Kirby was just a fucking crotchety asshole anyway. You know what I mean? Like, I think he kind of was an asshole to everybody. I mean, I love obviously everything that Jack Kirby has created, but Jack Kirby is not like some fucking saint of a guy that treated everybody like with some sort of beautiful, you know, romantic, you know, fairness and everything. It's like, no, he was a crotchety dick, and he probably treated, like, you know, Stan as a kid like shit. And then Stan, when he had the opportunity, was like, well, fuck this guy. You treated me like a shit. I'm gonna fucking make you work like a dog, you prick. You know, you know, you think you forget that stuff? I don't know. Maybe. So
Maybe.
That's my take on it.
Maybe
we'll see.
I'm sure we haven't touched on any, you know, divisive, you know, hot buttons out there in the comics community. Way to bring us all together, Joe Biden.
Yeah, well, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not.
Unity.
You are not the unity candidate.
No,
but it's funny, right? Because it's like, it's, to me, Stanley is interesting because everybody, at least in my perception, people know that he's a carnival barker. They, you know, like,
and I don't think he's
comics made up of Funky Flashman in the 70s to make fun of, you know, like, you know what I mean? It's like not revelatory of like
the thing I keep sort of, you know, like you keep hearing like, well, he took credit for all this stuff that he didn't do. And it's like, did he? You know, like, did Stan ever take credit for work that he didn't do necessarily? Did he promote himself along with Marvel Comics and all the creations and all the things. But I mean, he always gave credit to those guys as
that was part of the carnival barking, is that Marvel really built up the creators. They gave everyone the nicknames, and the whole bullpen. Yeah, so he spotlighted those
Saucy Steve Ditko and
Ramblin' John Romita, it's all that stuff. But it's something that happened with this show. Something with this show. It's whenever you get people in a creative environment where they're bouncing ideas off of each other and trying to come up with fantastic stuff, and they are not aware at the time that people may look back on it with a historical lens. No one records that shit. No one says, "Oh, well, that was Jack's idea and that was Stan's idea." And when we were in the, not that they had writers' rooms, but whenever we were in Stan's office and we're talking about Black Bolt, well, it's who came up with what. With Sal, who came up with the name Around Comics?
I don't know.
We don't remember. No, I say it was me.
I do remember where we came up with it.
Yeah, it was in the back of the factory. We were having a smoke.
Yeah.
Somebody came up with it, but we don't remember who actually came up with Around Comics. So we were just spitballing ideas, and I think a lot of that took place in 1960s Marvel bullpens. Is just guys sitting around talking about ideas for stuff, and I think a lot of that just goes into the ether of who had the idea of what or who named what, and they were working Marvel style. So
not to forgive Stan of anything. I mean, because I think he like Tom says, he was a hustler. He was a bit of a con man, a carnival barker. But that was what made Marvel successful. A big part of Marvel's success was him promoting it, and along with that came him promoting Stan the Man. You know what I mean? And that whole persona, and who knows who really created what or where or what. None of them got. I mean, Stan got more than he deserved, probably financially. He definitely got more than a lot of those guys ever got financially. But
that's history spyglass, is that you're looking at stuff. Does anyone care if these IPs aren't behind multi-billion-dollar movies now?
But I think that's why a book like this is out now, is because for the last 10 years you've seen Stan Lee. I mean, my daughter loves Stan Lee. She doesn't know anything about him other than he's that funny old dude in all the Marvel movies, and he made Marvel. And I think that's what people kind of, like a person who wrote this book is pissed off at the idea of that there's millions of people out there now that think. I mean, Jimmy Kimmel said that when Stan Lee died, Jimmy Kimmel's like one of the greatest artists in comics. What he called Stan Lee, and it's like, wait a minute, no, he didn't draw anything. But I think that's sort of the thing. There are people that are, like us, that know kind of the real thing, but take it to heart and are pissed off that Stan's getting this credit. And but my thing is yes, he is probably getting a lot of credit he doesn't deserve, but it's not necessarily some nefarious plan that Stan is doing now from the grave. You know what I mean?
This sounds like I'm an asshole, but as many people as get pissed off and scream about this, I think Jack Kirby is well known at this point.
Well,
it's people, especially in the comics community, understand that who Jack Kirby was, who Steve Ditko was, those early bullpen artists. People realize it. It's not like it's a secret now that those artists weren't co-creating those comics.
Yeah. No, I think it's definitely more well known now than it ever was. But you still have. I mean, Stan is an icon in pop culture, and he has been for a long time. I mean, he was back in the 70s. He was
Amazing Spider-Friends.
people knew him and didn't know any artists, anyone that wrote the books, anyone else. You know what I mean? Like he was always that sort of icon. But now I think it's even more than ever. He became so much bigger with the movies, and I think that's what's just fucking twisting the knife in these people's backs. Like,
yeah, whatever.
Whatever. They can't take it.
I can't take it anymore. Let's talk about some comics.
All right, fine.
We've talked enough about Stan Lee in our life, but no,
never enough.
Let's talk about comics distribution.
Excelsior, yeah. We've covered Kirby and Lee. Let's talk about the direct market.
Yeah.
We should have a special Patreon episodes called The Path Well Traveled, where we literally talk about shit that every comics book podcast has talked about like 500 times.
What are your feelings on
people want?
Yeah. What are your feelings on slabbed books? You know?
Yeah, we can cover that. We can cover the direct market. We already got Stan Lee and Jack Kirby down. You know, we can talk about Marvel versus DC. We can, we got.
Can we talk about if like they, Spider-Man should have got married? If they should have killed Gwen Stacy, we could cover that again.
Yeah. My head is exploded. Oh, speaking of Gwen Stacy,
the path will travel.
Maybe you guys can explain this to me, because I've not kept up with Marvel much in the last few years. Explain Gwenpool to me.
She's Gwen Stacy from an alternate reality that is a Deadpool. That is Deadpool. That's it.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. So that's Gwenpool. Yeah. Because did anyone read Modok Head Games number 3? Number 2 or 3?
I read number 2.
Okay. Well, then at the end of number 2, you know that Gwenpool is coming in the next issue. And say what you will about talk
about
Oswalt.
Well, I will. Can we talk about Rob Liefeld for a while?
Yes, yeah. Let's talk about Rob Liefeld. We should have an alarm when when one of our topics pops up that we need to save for our
the road well traveled.
Rob Liefeld episode. We can talk about whether he can draw feet.
Oh god,
pouches.
So many pouches. All right, continue.
A whole
I'll sound the alarm. I'll sound the alarm if one of the topics
okay, yeah, you'll be there with our path well traveled alarm.
Yeah, path well traveled alarm.
Yeah. Say what I was saying. Say what you will about Patton Oswalt, but he and Jordan Blum. Go ahead.
Sorry. I've had a tough week, Chris. I'm sorry. I'm trying to blow off a little steam here, man.
No,
you're taking this too seriously. Go ahead.
For sure. We're good?
Go, Chris. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, Sal turned us on to I will leave. Sal turned us on to Modok Head Games 2-3 months ago, and I picked it up, and really funny. And we've talked about it before that it's really hard to pull off comedy in comic books. It's one of the weird ironies of it, but it's hard to do haha funny books. There's just not a ton of them out there. This is a hilarious freaking book. If you are a Marvel fan at all, it is knee-slappingly funny. It is. There's knee slappers, Tom. Actual knee slappers.
Let me close my book, set it down to the side, put it back in its case.
Well, the second issue is the whole kind of the quick setup is that there's something wrong with Modok. He's having memories of a past life that he doesn't remember, and he is kind of always the smartest thing in the room, and he has to basically break off from AIM and to figure out what is going on. He feels like there's this huge problem that is not allowing him to be the killing machine that he's made to be. And then the second issue, he ends up going to Tony Stark to help fix him, and he ends up basically convincing Stark to help him figure out what is going on with this. And it turns into the funniest, like, weird buddy cop issue where Tony Stark and Modok have to sneak into an AIM auction that's like this annual auction where they sell off weapons and stolen technology to the biggest bidder. And there's this moment where, you know, shit goes down, and Modok's first inclination was just to screw Stark over, basically throw Stark in front of the bus so he can get away. And then he starts doing the calculations of probability of success, and it's really low. And so it's not until he works out that he and Tony have to work together to get out of this that he's like, oh, okay, we'll do this now. And everything in between that is just kind of one silly Marvel joke after another. It's one of the few books that I actually have fun reading. Like, it's like, that is a fun experience. So I'm loving it. It's great.
Yeah, I love the premise of Modok, or just the sort of characterization that they gave Modok as he's incredibly brilliant, but he's such a narcissist that he's, you know, can't really get anything done. he's so in his own head, and so, like, frustrated with
he's always
everyone.
Annoyed. He is fucking always annoyed by everyone.
Yeah. And it's really funny. And I don't know, I'm not that familiar with Jordan Blum. He's the co-writer on it. But it looks like he's a TV writer. He's written for Community and American Dad and some other TV shows and stuff. He's directed some stuff, I think. But yeah, I would like to see these guys do more sort of funny takes on things, because this is one of the, when I read the first issue, I'm like, yeah, this is one of the funniest comic books I've read in a long time, just because, like you said, it's not easy to, you know, to take a character like Modok, who's this weirdo kind of thing anyway, and then, you know, actually make him not likable, but
hilarious,
engaging. Oh, yeah, definitely hilarious.
Yeah. And Scott Hepburn, the Scott Hepburn art in this, I mean, it's a really nice looking book too.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It's a great book. It's really fun. I mean, Patton Oswalt's hilarious. He's a great writer in his own sense. I mean, you know, from obviously his stand-up, but, like, you know, just some of the stuff that he has put out over the years in, you know,
did he write the Star Wars filibuster?
Yeah, that was off the top of his head. That wasn't, he didn't write it. It was like, it was something like, if I remember correctly, like, they just said, okay, you just need to fill a little time here. You can do that, right? And he's like, okay, yeah, no problem. And that whole thing was like one take off the top of his head. Who knows how long he's been thinking about that, which is scary.
Years of
right.
No, that's awesome.
But
yeah, I want to see him write more comics. It's bring the funny haha back to comics.
Well, I read a comic of his that he did that Black Hammer Visions, the first issue of that, which is dealing with I can't think of the character's name, the young girl, the
we were talking about this last week. Yeah, the Mary Marvel analog.
Yeah, I can't think of her name, but and it wasn't meant to be funny necessarily. There was some humor to it, but it wasn't like this, where it was, you know, sort of like hysterically funny and just a lot of, you know, interesting humor to it. It was, I don't know. It was it felt more like a comic book I would expect from someone who's not a comic book writer. Whereas
Okay.
this
Mhm.
book, Modok, it just feels like a really good comic. So I don't know what the difference between but yeah, I'd like to see these two maybe do some more Marvel weird character stuff together for sure.
Yeah, I'm digging it. So I will eagerly await each issue.
Modok.
Waiting for more Modok. What's it stand for? Mechanical organism designed only
For killing.
I think that's what it originally. I don't know if it still stands for that or not. They might have
Mechanical organism designed only for entertaining.
for killing on stage.
Modo stage.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Yeah.
Golden Gale, by the way, is the
Golden Gale. There you
Golden
go.
Gale. Yeah. So there you go.
Mental, mobile, mechanized organism designed only for killing. So it's any one of those things. Mental, mobile, or mechanized, or all three. Is it 3 M's? MMM?
Modok.
Modok.
I think we'll have more of a wrap up after the series concludes. But Dave Wachter just knocking it out of the park again on Iron Fist, Heart of the Dragon.
Heart of the Dragon.
Yeah.
Oh, before you can move from Modok, I did want to say one more thing. One of my favorite moments of issue 2 is go to that convention thing. He dresses up
As Arnim Zola.
as Arnim Zola, which
we're always getting confused. I don't know why.
that was awesome. That's the hilarious little.
That's great.
Yeah, that's pretty genius.
Yeah, that was.
All right, Tom. I want to know what this book you were talking about. This from Humanoids. You read something, right?
Oh, For Justice.
For Justice.
Yeah, it's from Humanoids. It's part of their Life Drawn collection, which is like a slice of life comics from diverse voices. It's called For Justice: The Surge and Beats Klarsfeld story. It's about two people, real life. It's a true story about a couple who have been hunting Nazis across the globe, right? But what makes this more interesting than that, right? And I should say it's written in collaboration with the two of them, who are still alive. Written by Pascal Bresson and Sylvain Derange, and it is what it avoids is, like you hear that's a Nazi hunting story. It's going to be like guns and subterfuge and all this stuff, right? But it's more real than that. I mean, it's based on reality, right? And the sort of impetus of the story is it's the late 60s and a new German chancellor has been elected, and he was a Nazi during World War II, right? And the Beat, who is the one of the two main characters, right, and her husband Serge, she instigates this whole thing by sneaking into like a political convention, walking up to him and slapping him and yelling that he's a Nazi, right? And this is like the biggest thing in the world, right? Because the prevailing political thought is like, oh yeah, he was a Nazi, but like, let's just move along and we can pretend like everything's okay. And it angers her, right? And that her husband, Serge, his father was killed in the Holocaust, right? He's a German, he's a Jew. Yeah. Actually, he's a French Jew. She's German. And, it angers them that everyone's just like, oh, well, he was just a Nazi because he was an opportunist. And he didn't really think it. And like, it drives them to be like, no, like he was a Nazi. He shouldn't get to be chancellor of Germany, even if he was an opportunist. Like, that's still not good. Like, is there nobody else who can be, in charge, right?
This is the best. This is the best we have.
Yeah. And so it's really intriguing, right? Because it's like, it's the bravery of somebody to do something like that, which is not like a comic about like I sniped a Nazi from 200 yards away while I was saying it's like it was just the bravery of someone willing to stand up and be like, this guy was a Nazi. We all know he was a Nazi. Like, are we just going to pretend like this isn't happening? And it causes a huge fervor. Like they try and throw her in jail and there's protests and right. And like the thing she did was all, she just said the thing out loud that everybody knew, right? Like everybody knew he was a member of the Nazi party and that he worked in like the radio programming for the Nazis, and like he had said that he didn't really believe it, right? And so that's what really intrigued me about the story is the fact that this like instigating moment is not what you would expect it to be, nor is it hard to really grasp why it's so brave until you see like the context of what's happening. And the fact that she says it just upsets so many people because everyone's putting so much effort into pretending that it's not a big deal and that everyone should just get along and that it's fine. It's fine. It's not a big deal. He was like a light Nazi light.
It was years ago.
It
was years ago.
It was years ago.
Come on.
Yeah. So yeah, it's fine. So yeah, it's intriguing. I enjoy it quite a bit. The art in it is pretty cool, and the storytelling is cool. And there's some really very, emotional parts to it. When the
It's a little bit of Kevin O'Neill in there.
Where the husband, sort of talks about his own history of like he remembers when his father was taken away and they were hiding like in a false panel in a closet, right? And they could hear that his dad was taken away, and he knows the concentration camp that his father passed away at. And so to him, it is not ancient history. It's not like, oh, that happened a while ago. Like, it's fine. Like to him, it's still real, right? Like it's personal. And like the idea that everyone's like, oh, well, like he just worked in the radio. It's not that big of a deal. They take it very personally, right? So that's what really like hooked me into the story. It was just like this moment that it's building to this thing where you think it's going to be something major, like she's going to poison them or something. And it's not, it's just a slap. And that's like what instigates this whole giant thing. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Assassination attempt.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. But the way the story builds up to it is like, you feel like, oh, they're sneaking in when she just had to sneak up to get close enough to slap them.
Well,
they kill it.
No, it's the difference between like real life bravery and what.
Yeah, exactly.
Movies, like the stuff that happens in the movies is, that for entertainment. But like to really be brave, it's sometimes just, like just standing up for what's right, and what's wrong. But
just being like, he's a Nazi. He should resign. Yeah.
Fuck though that like. That simple thing in history sometimes has just been so fucking difficult, like that little thing of just stand up for what's right. And why does that always seem like we run into difficulty of doing that?
Of just doing the right thing. And
there's courage and people want fascism.
So I just totally I picked that up randomly and I've been enjoying it quite a bit.
Very nice.
Is it on the Hooplas?
Oh, it's on the Hooplas.
Oh, nice.
All right.
I was just reminded by Hoopla. I have borrows. I haven't used.
I got the same text message. You have unused borrows this month.
Yeah.
Which is. Oh yeah. I was like, oh okay, I'll read that. I'm still working through Vision and the Scarlet Witch, the 12-issue maxi series.
Aren't you watching the TV show?
That's why I
have to. Yeah, it's part of her job, which is probably a great time to mention patreon.com/aroundcomics. If you want to hear Sal and I talk wax poetically about WandaVision, we have the exclusive ACTV WandaVision After Hours. I finally have the full name down.
That's
Isn't that something else, Tom?
Wow, that is a hell of a long name.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Around
Yeah,
Comics TV recap. WandaVision.
There it is.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah,
I like it.
we love
That's
it,
good.
man. We're having so much fun with it. We've talked about it a little bit each week on this show. How much fun we're having doing that. It's a good time. I look forward to it. I'm still pissed about the whole Agatha reveal, but
Yeah.
anyway, and then future stacks. Always get the future stacks to let me know what I should buy this week or shouldn't buy, or what's going to make Sal happy on the show.
Yeah. There's going to be more Tom versus episodes. There's going to be the path most traveled.
The path most traveled.
Where we talk about topics everyone's talked about 100 times, and you can just get all angry.
I'm gonna do just my mean Stan Lee.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be like Stan. It's just gonna be called The Man is Back.
Bad Stan impersonation.
Bad Stan. It's just gonna be Bad Stan.
Just Bad Stan.
Bad Stan.
Nice.
You want to hear us talk about the direct market? We got that. You want to hear us talk about why don't kids like comics? Do you understand?
I think the Wortham trials and the Comics Code Authority. We should talk about
comics
that.
are too expensive. We're going to do one about that.
Listen, every generation
waiting for the trade, Tom. Are you waiting for the trade?
We're gonna
every generation deserves to hear us talk about comics.
It's
A whole other generation of around.
All of a sudden, he's Mr. Joe DiMaggio over here. It's like, well, I play like that every day, just in case there's one kid in the stands that never saw me play.
we have to talk about the direct market in case this is some kid's first episode.
Listen, it was
youngster.
topical. Stan Lee.
Back in the day, you could buy them at
I didn't write the fucking book. Somebody wrote it, and they think it's topical.
I'm serious that we should do a special episode covering every topic.
We'll do that for like April Fools. It'll be a speed round where it'll be like 5 minutes on every. We'll have like an hour's worth of 5 minute
long, in-depth, 3-hour episodes on each topic.
No. I want it to be like what's the ESPN show where they have the buzzer, which means around the horn or something like that. Kornheiser, I think. But anyway, it's like you get like 5 minutes on each topic. So
just yell.
Don't put a structure to it. Just it's gotta be.
Hours long. We'll go way inside baseball and do an episode dedicated to format changes.
We could just end this fucking show right now.
No, we got to so check out all of that at patreon.com/aroundcomics. I know that you read the first issue of Last Ronin, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Last Ronin. Tom, have you read it?
No, I have not. I've been reading about Nazi hunting.
I think you would dig this comic. I think knowing your sensibilities, I know Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles can be a hard sell sometimes. I think you would dig this.
If it's not in a cartoon format or a live action movie, Tom wants nothing.
Yeah,
it's got to have more. Give me more cowabunga.
I'm a movie purist. I only unless it's got Vanilla Ice rapping in it. It's I'm not interested.
No, this is great though. It is. It's basically Eastman and Laird's take on Frank Miller's Ronin, with the last surviving Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle as he tries to avenge his fallen brethren and his dad. And it's cool. It's got great turtle ninja action scenes. It's that obvious homage to Frank Miller. Who does art on this? It's not Eastman or Laird.
The layouts are by Kevin Eastman.
Yeah, he's doing layouts.
Yeah, and then Esau and Isaac Escorza did the pencils.
Yeah, it's a good looking book. I mean, it works perfect for TMNT, but it's got that, you know, gritty future Ronin kind of look to it. Oh, and yeah, and it's also you know, it's kind of post-apocalyptic, and so it has all of these little throwback moments to, you know, to what happened to the characters. I mean, it's one of those, everyone's going to die in this. It has that feeling of, you know, alternate, you know, possible future reality where you can just kill everyone because it's that dark. It's a dark book.
Aren't they all imaginary stories?
They are.
To quote Alan Moore. Aren't they all imaginary?
They're real to me.
They're real to me, damn it. This really happened.
Yeah. But it's good. It's I'm digging it, man. There's poor April with one arm and one leg. So we don't know what happened to her, but it wasn't good.
Shredder.
Yeah.
Asshole.
Seems like a Shredder type move to cut off someone's arm.
Yeah.
Or
and leg.
I think it was a manhole cover accident.
Hot pizza. It was Bebop and Rocksteady.
But I want to go back and read some of the other Turtle stuff that's been coming out in the last few years. Everything I've read, I've really enjoyed. You know, what a weird comic, and just the evolution it's gone through over 35 years, whatever it is now.
Yeah, I have. I mean, this was the first really. Every once in a while I pick up an issue just to see, but it never. I don't know. I mean, I was 15 when it came out, so it kind of hit me different then than it does now. But I really did like this first issue. I haven't read the second one yet, but you know, like I said when I talked about it the first time, it was, yeah, it's got that Frank Miller homage, which is what I loved about it originally. I mean, in part,
it makes absolute sense to do this as kind of a Ronin homage. It's I don't even know if homage is right, but yeah, it certainly leans on it really heavily.
Yeah,
in the spirit of Stan Lee, it's an homage. It's an homage to steal the idea. We call it an homage, and everyone will love it.
I had nothing to say. I'm not saying anything more.
Aww.
Guys, you yelling at me for talking about a book that just came out last week.
Guy turns 50 and now everything's personal.
No, I just, you know. Go ahead. You want to talk? Keep talking.
Did you read Snow Angels?
I did.
And
it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't love it. It was, you know, one of the things I realized reading it was I love Jacques art when Jacques is drawing Batman. I love Jacques art when Jacques is drawing, you know, Superman or Nightwing or characters that I recognize. You
didn't dig this one, huh?
I mean, it was okay. I don't know. I think partially it was bad timing. I just like, you know, it snowed for 75 days in a row, and I really didn't want to read a story about
ice.
Yeah, it was a little, you know.
I could see it's a sparse story. I mean, it's really weird because Lemire in like 3 pages does 2 of my favorite things. He basically builds the construct of a world. I mean, he's a great world builder. So he kind of like creates the setting. And yes, in a world, Jeff Lemire creates so and so. Yeah, it's already a fleshed out experience. And he has the rules. He does a Fight Club style. These are the rules of living here, which you always got to love that. But then after that, I mean, it's pretty sparse. Not a ton happens in this, kind of just enough to, you know, continue to give you the baseline of the characters, and then there's the big cliffhanger. But I liked Jacques' art. I thought it was beautiful.
I don't know. I think I just for whatever reason, this story didn't really thrill me. I love Jacques as an artist. I mean, I absolutely adore most of his work, and it's not that this was bad in any way. It's just I don't feel like it really gave him much to work with.
Sure.
It's a very bland landscape so far in this story. It's ice and snow and gray and black and white, and that's okay too sometimes, but it's like I think Jacques' art works best when it's sort of noirish, or there's some sort of just more shadow and in a city, and I just don't think that it gave him much to really show off his talents personally. I mean, there was nothing. It's two very good creators. I'm sure it'll probably be better as it goes along. It just wasn't something that really thrilled me the first issue.
This is one. Well, first of all, we should say it's a Comixology original. Are they even printing this?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, I mean it's a Comixology. I don't know if it's exclusive. I would imagine at some point you may see it as a trade paperback. I don't know how those Comixology deals work, but this definitely feels like sit down and read the whole story for a little bit more fulfilling experience. Right. We'll see. But yeah, I agree that it is really sparse first issue. Like
it is free on if you're a Prime member, you can read it for free.
There you go. Yeah.
There you go, baby.
Yeah, it's probably just I mean, I don't know. Maybe like it's gonna be I don't know how many issues it is either. Yeah. But
it feels like it will read better as a collection. And a lot of Jeff's stuff is like that because he tells kind of like big epic stories, but he does it at a very, we'll call it a Canadian pace.
I think it's a very Canadian book.
It's very Canadian.
Weird Canadian northern ice book. I think for me too, it's also like I'm very hit or miss with post-apocalyptic stuff. Like there's just so many post-apocalyptic stories about a father and their children and they're trying to survive, and it's like you gotta, for me, you just gotta give me something really kind of unique at this point for it to be interesting. And I don't know.
I almost, if I were still writing reviews or anything, I would describe this as The Road in Alaska. It's like it's kind of it's kind of it's a guy and his two daughters instead of guy and son in like post-apocalyptic frozen tundra.
We got 2 trains, baby. We got 2 kids. No, this isn't about a dad taking his kids.
I'm telling you, watch
it's a dad taking his 2 kids.
2 kids.
Have you seen the show Infinity Train, Chris?
Is that real?
It's a cartoon. It's an Adult Swim cartoon that's very good. Called Infinity Train.
I love how everything Tom's watching now is children's cartoons, and because
this is not a children's. Yeah, no. Yeah. Like, it's a little deep. I think it might make your kids' brains crack open.
Okay, I'm just now getting into Rick and Morty and the
love Rick and Morty.
Yeah, I slow rolled into that one, so
that's okay. That's okay. You can.
It's there, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Infinity Train. It's about a girl who finds herself on a infinite train. Like in each train car is like an entire different universe, and she's trying to work her way through each car of the train to figure out how to get off the train.
What a great idea for a story! You can just tell it forever. Every train there's never ends. That's a terrific
like the Sandman.
Yeah. So it's like Snowpiercer has 2 trains, but Infinity Train has an infinite train.
Okay.
Which, sorry.
Fuck Snowpiercer.
Hey, but
checkmate.
In Snowpiercer, every car is different. It's like which is I'm telling you, you got to give Snowpiercer a shot.
Checkmate. I'm watching. I already got 1 train show, dude.
How many train shows you want?
How many train shows you want me to watch? I got Thomas the Tank Engine. I got Infinity Train.
Tank Engine.
I Those I got, you know,
Murder on the Orient
Mr. Rogers got that trolley. I'll count that.
This is true.
The train show.
So on a whole other geeky subject, and I don't know how this is possible, but it is. So you know, like Gen Con, the big gaming convention, right?
Yeah.
There is apparently, and this was in Illinois, a gaming convention, but it was only games about trains. Are there that many games about trains?
Like Ticket to Ride type games?
Yeah,
like
that's just like the one I could think of. But yeah, it was like Ticket to Ride. I don't know. Apparently, there's a lot of games about trains because there was a gaming convention, and that's all they did was games about trains.
Train games?
Train games. Yeah.
There's rail. Okay, well, we got Ticket to Ride, Train, Sim World, Mexican Train, Tracks, the train set game, Ticket to Ride Europe. I don't know if how many of these are board games and how many are video games. Railway Empire, that looks like a board game.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's a weird, wildly
Russian railroads.
Mm-hmm.
Well, train people are weirdos. I mean, there's like train shows. There's you know, like giant train exhibitions, and you know, come on.
People love trains.
People love trains. I don't know.
Do either one of you guys do a lot of board games? That's a subject it's a geeky subject that we've never really talked about.
No.
Classic Candyland.
Okay. Yeah. So
I'll play a Trivial Pursuit.
Okay. No, me and the kids play. My kids. Well, I have two. My nephew is a very hipster sort of game player. He plays all the new, every fucking new weird game that comes out. That he plays and some of them are good, some of them are just stupid. So I play some with that my nephew and niece and them, and then my kids like to play board games, and we've played a lot of board games over COVID for sure. But it can be anything from Life to Monopoly to Ticket to Ride, or I bought this like monster game where you're like in you save a village from monsters, and then there was this other Sherlock Holmes game that was pretty cool. So yeah, we play quite a few.
It's like comics, that whole like gamer culture and subculture. It runs deep out there, and yeah, there's some great board games. A lot of friends that have game nights and that kind of stuff. They're fun.
Tune in to our Patreon show around board games. Shoots and Ladders,
board around,
Jenga. That's not a board game, but Operation.
Hey,
it's got a board, baby.
It's a game. It has a
game. It's a board, baby. I'm calling it. It's a board game.
Yep, good stuff. So,
Monopoly.
I like
I'm just
Pandemic.
gonna list board games.
Pandemic. I know you're just gonna keep Scrabble.
Oh wait, Risk.
My son loves Risk.
Yeah,
but nobody ever wants to play it because it takes like
so long. It's so long. It's painful. It's a painful experience.
I do like Ticket to Ride. That's pretty fun.
That's kind of the newer generation of board games.
Yeah. There's a lot of card games that are like really hit or miss. Like some of them are good, and some are just like, this is way too complicated and stupid. This is
there's like 800 rules.
Yeah,
and there's only one person who knows the rules, and then they could be making it up.
Right? Yes.
Yeah, it's like you actually can't play that card after someone plays that card.
What? Wait a minute.
What? Yeah, you can't do that. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll explain as we go along. And you will never learn the rules because you're never going to play the game again. So
right. No. It's one and done.
My wife's favorite is Sushi Go. You ever play that?
Sushi Go's fun.
It's a fun little quick fun game. But I always forget how to play it. And then we go to play it. I'm like, wait, how do you? It's not that hard. It's just kind of No, it doesn't. But I always forget.
Building better sushi. It's the same thing in board games as it is in comics. Some most like IP games, stuff that you based on a movie or a TV show are usually pretty terrible board games. But every once in a while, there's one that pops up that is surprisingly good. And last year or 2 years ago, Jaws, the board game, came out, and it's awesome. It's a fun family game.
Let me look it up. I'm going to order it.
I will too. My kids.
Really good.
That is probably my wife and I together our favorite movie,
There.
next to
Yeah.
Reservoir Dogs. Those
Okay.
are, but Jaws is like, if we were to list our top 5 favorite movies, those would match up. Me and my wife, we love Jaws. Jaws
Nice.
is,
You'll love the board game then. It's fun. You
I
need
will have to.
like 3 people
What?
at least.
No problem. I got 4 in my house alone. I got 2 of them I can make play.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's like
Fine.
what because one of you plays the shark, and it's like the movie. It's a game that is played in 2 acts. So you on one side of the board is Amity Island, and it's the if you're the shark, you are trying to eat as many swimmers as possible, and then the other 3 are what Brody.
Shark's got a shark.
It's Brody, Hooper, and Quint are trying to tag the shark.
I will drive my family insane with this game because I will just do Hooper. Hooper. You go in there.
At what point in the game do
Go
you
in the
talk about
cage.
the USS Indianapolis sinking? There's got to be a soliloquy halfway through the game.
Sharks in the water.
Blood black like a
Yeah.
dog's.
But the second half, you turn the game board over, and it's the orca.
Spanish ladies.
Hmm.
Farewell and adieu, you ladies of Spain. I'll just do that the entire time.
It's great. It would be perfect. But yeah, check that one out. All right, so this has been a free episode of Around Board Games on Around Comics. You guys got anything else?
I did read a comic.
Mm-hmm.
It was from Image called fuck off. You fucking babbled on
Sal
go fuck yourself.
I wants to keep the episodes to an hour. I'm just telling you.
I didn't say that. I said that.
Oh, Radiant Black? Yeah. Kyle Higgins.
This was kind of a fun issue. It was kind of a fun story by Kyle Higgins about an down on his luck writer who goes back home, is forced to go live back home because he has like $38,000 in debt and his book is not written. That he told everybody that he was writing and didn't write, but then he finds a black hole or something and it gives him superpowers. So it kind of just a classic, superhero comic book origin thing, but it was fun. It was funny. It was, you kind of like the main character. It was good art. Just a little different spin on kind of a classic thing of this dude who ends up finding this thing that gives him like a suit. I don't know if it's alien. You don't know what it is by the end of the issue, but he ends up he can fly, and then he's got his sort of it felt a little Shazam-y, like the Shazam movie where the Freddy is sort of like his trainer and teacher, but it was fun. It was a fun little book. So
cool.
There, I went over
and
4
written,
minutes.
and written by Chicagoan Kyle Higgins. So we always like to see Kyle working out there. All right. No, I was just giving you trouble.
Yeah, a lot this week. I don't know what the hell I did to piss you off. Jeez. Shitting all over Stan Lee. Fucking Jack Kirby lover over here. What is your last name? Kirby? Jeez. Stan owe you some royalties?
Chris Kirby.
Chris Kirby.
I like Stan.
All right. You just don't want to hear about it anymore.
No, that's fine. It's okay.
No.
Hey, I didn't call it the road well traveled. That was Tom.
No, I just said the topic. Anytime you talk about I mean, like Stan versus Jack is like every podcast has had that. Well, we probably did it better. Right? But like
Every podcast is done.
every
We've
podcast
done it
has
multiple
it.
times.
Yeah, we've talked about it like
Stan versus Jack
yeah,
over and over again.
so
We've
many
done it
times.
for all three Around Comics generations.
Yeah, always, constantly.
started.
Yeah. Well, not constantly. We do a pretty good job of avoiding. It's just one of those topics, like
Yeah.
the direct market, and then like it comes up, and then everyone talks about it. You're like, why the? And then you're like, what the fuck? Are we
Oh,
talking
I've
about
got
the direct
thoughts on
market? Yeah, everyone has thoughts on it, and nobody cares. Nobody. The direct market one, just nobody. It's just like, oh god. And I find myself talking about it, and I'm like, this is so. Why am I talking about this? Yet it comes up, and everyone has to be like,
It's like a Bears fan talking about why that team is bad. You
I
don't want
must-
to talk about it. You've talked about it a million times, yet you always find yourself talking about it.
I don't want to talk about the direct market, but yet I'm now going to talk for 15 minutes about my thoughts about the direct market. It's like a quicksand. You can't get out of it. You're just like, oh my god, I'm talking about an out of body experience. So you're like, what am I talking about? Why am I doing this?
Why am I saying
Stan
these
is eternal.
words?
Yeah,
Stan versus Jack is eternal. I will.
it is a better topic than the direct market, which is just like, no, who cares? Like, come on, whatever.
All right.
We all know who's Chris is Kirby. Sal is Stan.
Yeah.
And I'm the tiebreaker.
You're
And
Roy.
I don't know.
You're Roy Thomas.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to pick sides.
That would be fun if we were diametrically opposed to the whole Kirby versus Lee debate, because those things get nasty. That's like two women pulling hair nasty.
But it's always strange because it's
I
like
could change.
it's always strange because it's always like I and I know this is a very strange thing to say as someone who is on a podcast about comic books, but to personally invest yourself so heavily into another single human being who does not know who the fuck you are or care in any way.
Is dead and is
dead.
And has
He's
been
never
dead
gonna
for
care.
decades.
He's just never gonna care that you agree, like that you're defending defending him. This is always
there's people that defend them more than they've ever defended themselves.
yeah.
Bullhorn through history. Stand up.
God
for
damn
yourself,
it! I
man.
will. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I hear one more bad thing about Stanley, I'm reaching through this goddamn computer. Stanley, I'm gonna fucking kill you. Yeah.
I'm not like a Stan defender. I get so sick and tired of everybody like acting like Jack Kirby is untouchable in the conversation. They're like, listen, Jack's work without Stan is shit. It is fucking garbage for the most part. So, I mean, the writing,
good ideas,
story.
good ideas, but I think they needed each other.
Or you don't like the every third page being the first page?
No, I don't.
Okay, I guess that's an acquired taste for those of us who.
I mean, they're all great. They're all great ideas, but I mean, Commandy is a tough read, man.
Those of us who prefer to read our comics in 3-page chunks. Let's start over. Oh, I guess we're starting over here. Okay, let's go.
It's like being a goldfish. By the time you get through 3 pages, you forgot about it. You got to start over.
I'm at the start again. And it was the #1 comics of the time.
This is true.
Always have as many first pages as you can.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Let's talk about #1 issues.
No, let's save it.
Let's end this goddamn train wreck.
Yeah.
Read this infinity train wreck.
Infinity train wreck.
Back with another car on this fucking train.
Yeah. The next train car up is about the direct market. Okay, so we talked about Patreon. I don't think we have time for listener emails or social media posts, but please reach out to the show, info@aroundcomics.com. Hit us up on the Facebooks, Twitters, the TikToks, all of that.
We don't have time on this imaginary schedule that we create for ourselves.
So, yeah, that's what I got. Yes. Yeah. There you go.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
I got nothing.
All right. We'll be back for live stream next Tuesday, 8:00 Central Standard Time. In the meantime,
In between time,
we'll be everywhere in
then around comics.
and around comics.
Comics. Comics. Comics.
Yay.